The phone was still recording when they grabbed her. Sophie Bennett had been filming a mukbang outside a Pojangmaka in Itaewon, laughing into her camera about the crispy perfection of Korean fried chicken, when the black Mercedes pulled up. She didn't notice at first. Too busy describing the gochujang glaze to her 70,000 followers, too absorbed in the crunch of perfectly fried skin between her teeth. Then hands. Strong hands. Multiple sets clamping down on her arms. Her phone clattered to the pavement, camera lens facing up, still streaming live as she was dragged backward. She tried to scream, but something sweet-smelling pressed against her mouth and nose. Chemical. Sickly. Her vision blurred at the edges, darkness creeping in like spilled ink across paper. The last thing her followers saw before the live stream cut off was the underside of a luxury car and Sophie's legs being shoved inside. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments. Cold leather against her cheek. The hum of an engine. Zip ties cutting into her wrists behind her back. Her head pounded like someone had used it as a taiko drum, and her mouth tasted like she'd licked a hospital floor. Sophie forced her eyes open. She was still in the Mercedes, but it had stopped moving. Through the tinted windows, she could see the blurred lights of Seoul's skyline. They'd taken her somewhere high up. Expensive. The car door opened and rough hands pulled her out. She stumbled, legs refusing to cooperate after however long she'd been unconscious. Two men in dark suits flanked her, their faces expressionless. They weren't the grabbing type. These were the standing around looking intimidating type. Which somehow felt worse. They marched her through an underground garage toward a private elevator. Everything was sleek, modern, expensive. The kind of place that cost more per month than Sophie made in a year from her food blog. The elevator ride felt eternal. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every true crime podcast she'd ever listened to flashed through her mind in rapid succession. Women who disappeared. Women who were found. Women who were never found at all. The elevator dinged. Penthouse level. They walked her down a hallway with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. The view would have been stunning if Sophie wasn't pretty sure she was about to die. They stopped at a set of double doors. One of the men knocked twice. A voice from inside spoke in Korean. Low. Controlled. The kind of voice that didn't need to yell to be obeyed. The doors opened. The room was exactly what Sophie expected from a Mafia movie. Massive. Minimalist. Expensive art on the walls that probably cost more than her childhood home. Floor-to-ceiling windows on two sides. A desk that looked carved from a single piece of dark wood. And behind that desk sat the most beautiful man Sophie had ever seen in her life. Which was inconvenient, considering he'd probably ordered her kidnapping. He was younger than she expected. Maybe mid-30s. Sharp jawline. Dark eyes that assessed her with the clinical precision of a jeweler examining a diamond for flaws. His black hair was pushed back from his face, and he wore an expensive suit with the casual confidence of someone who'd never worried about money a day in his life. But it was the controlled stillness that truly unnerved her. He didn't fidget. Didn't blink excessively. Just watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The men pushed her toward a chair facing the desk. Sophie's legs gave out, and she collapsed into it more than sat. Her wrists were still zip-tied behind her back. Her head still pounded. And this beautiful, dangerous man was still staring at her like she was a particularly interesting insect he'd found on his windshield. He spoke. English. Perfect English with barely a trace of an accent. Sophie Kim. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. An accusation. Sophie's mouth was dry, but she forced words out anyway. Sophie Bennett. My name is Sophie Bennett. His eyes narrowed slightly. The first crack in his controlled expression. You're not Korean. I'm American. From Chicago. I'm a food blogger. I make videos about Korean street food. The words tumbled out desperate and fast. Check my phone. Check my passport. You grabbed the wrong person. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just continued that unnerving stare. Then he pulled out his phone. Tapped something. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He turned the phone around to show her a photo. Sophie Kim. Korean American. Similar age. Similar build. Even wore her hair in box braids like Sophie did. My men were supposed to collect her leaving the W Hotel in Gangnam. His voice was still controlled, but something cold had entered it. Something that made Sophie's blood freeze. They collected you leaving a chicken tent in Itaewon. So let me go, Sophie said, hating how her voice shook. It's a mistake. Just a mistake. He set down his phone, stood, walked to the window with his hands in his pockets. For a long moment he said nothing, just stared out at Seoul's glittering skyline like it personally offended him. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Too quiet. I can't do that. Why not? He turned back to face her. Because you've seen my face. You're in my home. You know I exist. I won't tell anyone. I swear. I'll forget this ever happened. You'll forget the face of the man who kidnapped you? His smile was cold. Sharp. I don't think so. Sophie's heart was racing now. Full panic threatening to break through. Please. I have followers who'll notice I'm missing. My last livestream, people saw me get grabbed. Your last post said you were taking a week off to explore the countryside. He pulled out his phone again, showed her. Her Instagram. Her Twitter. Her TikTok. All updated within the last hour with the same message. Very convenient timing. If you're loving this wild story so far, hit that subscribe button because trust me, it gets so much crazier. Drop a comment telling me if you'd survive being kidnapped by a mafia boss and smash that like button. Sophie stared at her social media accounts, her stomach dropping. How did you? I'm thorough, Sophie Bennett. He pocketed his phone and moved closer, perching on the edge of his desk. While you were unconscious, I learned everything about you. 26 years old. Food blogger with 73,000 followers across platforms. Moved to Seoul 8 months ago on a working holiday visa. Lives in a studio apartment in Hongdae. Sends money to your mother in Chicago every month. She has diabetes. The expensive kind. Sophie's breath caught. He knew about her mom. He knew everything. Your Korean is intermediate at best, he continued, voice flat and factual. You have no family here. No boyfriend. Your closest friend is a Canadian English teacher named Monica who thinks you're flaky because you cancel plans often. No one will truly notice you're missing for at least a week. You're insane, Sophie whispered. I'm practical. He tilted his head, studying her. And now I have a problem. The woman I actually need has vanished. Probably fled Korea the moment she realized I was looking for her. And I'm left with you, an innocent who can identify me to the authorities. So what? Sophie's voice cracked. You're going to kill me because your men screwed up? Something flickered across his face. Not quite emotion, but close. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with you yet. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. He gestured to one of his men. Cut her ties. She's not going anywhere. The zip ties fell away and blood rushed back into Sophie's hands with painful tingles. She rubbed her wrists, watching him warily. What's your name? She asked suddenly. His eyebrow raised slightly. Excuse me. If you're going to keep me prisoner, I should at least know what to call my kidnapper. For the first time, something that might have been amusement crossed his face. You have courage. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless. It's a simple question. He studied her for a long moment. Then, Lee Ji-hyuk. Well, Lee Ji-hyuk, I need to use the bathroom. And I need food. And I need to know what the hell you want from me. Ji-hyuk's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. Sungmin will show you to the guest room. You'll find everything you need there. Clothes. Toiletries. Food will be brought to you. Guest room, Sophie repeated flatly. You mean prison cell? I mean guest room. There are no bars on the windows. No chains on the doors. But there are guards outside and cameras everywhere. He leaned forward slightly. Don't try to escape, Sophie Bennett. It won't end well. And if I do anyway? Then I'll find you within an hour and the consequences will be significantly less pleasant than a comfortable room with a view of the Han River. His eyes locked onto hers. I'm offering you comfort while I decide your fate. I suggest you take it. Sungmin, one of the suited men, gestured toward a door. Sophie stood on shaky legs and followed him through the penthouse. It was massive. Multiple rooms. Art that probably cost more than her entire life savings. Everything decorated in blacks and grays and whites, cold, modern, expensive. The guest room was nicer than any hotel Sophie had ever stayed in. King bed with silk sheets. Attached bathroom with a rainfall shower. A closet filled with women's clothes in exactly her size, tags still attached. Designer brands. Thousands of dollars worth of clothing. How did you get all this so fast? Sophie asked, but Sungmin had already closed the door. She heard the lock click from the outside. She was alone. Sophie sank onto the bed and finally let herself shake. This was real. She'd been kidnapped by the Korean Mafia. She was trapped in a penthouse with a beautiful, dangerous man who hadn't decided whether to let her live. And nobody knew where she was. Her phone was gone. Her passport was probably in Ji Hyok's possession. Her social media had been hijacked to cover her disappearance. She was completely isolated. Sophie pulled her knees to her chest and pressed her face against them. She wouldn't cry. Wouldn't give them that satisfaction. She'd figure this out. She'd survived moving to a foreign country alone. Survived her father walking out when she was 12. Survived watching her mother's health deteriorate while working 3 jobs to pay medical bills. She'd survived this too. A knock on the door made her jump. It opened before she could respond. A middle-aged woman entered carrying a tray of food. She wore a simple black dress and had kind eyes that seemed out of place in this situation. "I'm a Jumma Park," the woman said in accented English. "I take care of Mr. Lee's home. I brought you dinner." She set the tray on the bedside table. Jjigae, rice, banchan. The smell made Sophie's stomach growl despite everything. "Eat," a Jumma Park said gently. "You need strength." "For what?" "To be murdered with energy." The older woman's expression softened. "Mr. Lee is not cruel. He's careful. There's a difference. He kidnapped me. His men made a mistake. He's trying to figure out how to fix it." A Jumma Park moved toward the door, then paused. "I've worked for him for 5 years. I've seen him do many things. But I've never seen him hurt someone who didn't deserve it." "How comforting," Sophie said bitterly. "Eat. Rest. Tomorrow will be clearer." The door closed behind her with a soft click. Sophie stared at the food. Every instinct screamed not to eat anything her kidnapper provided. But her stomach growled again and logic won out. If they wanted to drug her, they'd already done it. If they wanted her dead, she'd already be dead. She ate. The jjigae was perfect. The kind of perfect that came from decades of practice. Despite everything, Sophie found herself cataloging the flavors. The depth of the broth. The ratio of vegetables to tofu. Food blogger instincts died hard. After eating, she explored the bathroom. Luxury skincare products. Expensive shampoo. A bathrobe that felt like wearing a cloud. She showered quickly, half expecting someone to burst in. Nobody did. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. Jeans that hugged her curves. Soft sweaters. Even pajamas in her preferred style, cotton shorts and oversized t-shirts. Ji Hyok had been thorough. Disturbingly thorough. Sophie changed into pajamas and climbed into bed. The sheets were absurdly soft. The mattress perfectly firm. Under different circumstances, this would have been the best sleep of her life. Instead, she lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd see tomorrow. Want to know what happens when Sophie wakes up in the Mafia boss's penthouse? The tension is about to skyrocket. Comment below what you think Ji Hyok's next move will be, and don't forget to like this video so more people can experience this insane story. Morning came with sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of fresh coffee. Sophie woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. Then reality crashed back. The kidnapping. Ji Hyok. The penthouse prison. She sat up and found a tray on the bedside table that hadn't been there when she'd finally fallen asleep around 3 a.m. Coffee. Fresh fruit. Pastries that looked bakery fresh. A note in precise handwriting. "Join me for breakfast when you're ready. LJH. Not a request. A command disguised as an invitation. Sophie dressed in jeans and a simple black sweater from the closet, hating how well everything fit. She drank the coffee, dark and perfect, and steeled herself. Whatever Ji Hyok wanted, she'd face it head-on. Cowering wouldn't save her. The door was unlocked. She stepped into the hallway and found Sung-min waiting. "This way," he said simply. He led her to a dining room with a view of Seoul that would have stolen her breath under different circumstances. Ji Hyok sat at the head of a long table, reading something on a tablet. He wore black again, seemed to be his signature, dress shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with what looked like the edge of a tattoo. He looked up when she entered. Those dark eyes assessed her with the same unsettling intensity as yesterday. "You slept." Eventually. Sophie remained standing. "Did you decide yet?" Whether you're killing me or letting me go. Sit down, Sophie. I'd rather stand. I'd rather you sit. His voice didn't change volume, but something in it made her legs move before her brain could override the command. She sat across from him, chin raised defiantly. Ji Hyuk set down his tablet. I've been thinking about your situation all night. How considerate. His lips twitched. Almost a smile. You're brave or stupid. I haven't decided which. Why can't I be both? This time he did smile. Small. Brief. But genuine. It transformed his face from dangerously beautiful to devastatingly so. Sophie's traitorous heart skipped. I've made a decision, Ji Hyuk said. You'll stay here. For now. As your prisoner. As my guest. Guests can leave. Eventually, yes. He poured himself coffee from a silver carafe. Sophie Kim stole 10 billion won from my organization. Money I need back. Money that belongs to people far less patient than I am. I'm not Sophie Kim. No. But she doesn't know I know that. He took a sip of coffee, watching her over the rim. She thinks her identity is still safe. Which means she might resurface. And when she does, I need to be ready. What does that have to do with keeping me? Insurance. Leverage. A backup plan. He set down his cup. If Sophie Kim discovers I'm looking for her, I need something to draw her out. An innocent caught in the crossfire might do that. Sophie's stomach dropped. You're going to use me as bait. Only if necessary. And in the meantime, I just what? Live here? Play house with my kidnapper. You live here comfortably, Ji Hyuk corrected. You have your own space. Access to anything you need. You'll be fed, clothed, protected. Protected from what? His expression darkened. From people who do far worse than keep you in a luxury penthouse with 3 meals a day and a river view. How generous. My kidnapper is the nice kind of criminal. Mock me all you want. It doesn't change your situation. He leaned back in his chair. You have 2 choices, Sophie Bennett. Stay here willingly under my protection, or stay here unwillingly in significantly less comfortable circumstances. Choose. Sophie's hands clenched under the table. That's not a choice. It's more of a choice than most people in your position receive. She wanted to throw her coffee in his face. Wanted to scream. Wanted to flip the entire expensive table over. Instead, she took a breath and met his eyes. How long? Until I find Sophie Kim and recover what she stole. Could be days. Could be weeks. And then we'll discuss your release. Discuss, Sophie repeated flatly. Not guarantee. I don't make promises I might not keep. He studied her face. But I will tell you this, I have no interest in hurting you. You're an innocent. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong name. That's not your fault. But it's my problem. Yes. He didn't apologize. Didn't soften. Just stated facts. It's your problem now. Sophie stared at this beautiful monster across from her. He spoke about her captivity like a business transaction. Clinical. Detached. As if she was a quarterly report instead of a human being whose life he'd stolen. I need to call my mother, she said finally. She'll worry. No calls. She has diabetes. She needs to know I'm safe. Something flickered across Ji Hyuk's face. Your mother thinks you're on a filming trip to Jeju Island. I've arranged for regular text updates from your phone to maintain that illusion. You've thought of everything. I told you. I'm thorough. He pushed a plate toward her. Eat. You barely touched dinner last night. I'm not hungry. You're angry. There's a difference. He gestured to the food. Ajama Park made those pastries specifically for you. Refusing them would be rude. Rude, Sophie laughed bitterly. You kidnapped me, but I'm the rude one for not eating your croissants. I didn't say you were rude. I said refusing them would be. His eyes locked onto hers. Park has worked for me for 5 years. She's a good woman. Kind. Takes care of this place like it's her own home. She made those pastries at 5 in the morning because I told her I had a guest who might need comfort food. A guest. Right. Would you prefer I call you what you are? His voice dropped. A complication. A liability. A loose end that needs managing. The words hit like a slap. Sophie grabbed a croissant just to have something to do with her hands. It was perfect. Buttery. Flaky. Exactly the kind of pastry she'd have filmed for her blog under different circumstances. Why are you being nice to me? She asked quietly. The food, the clothes, the room. If I'm just a problem to solve, why treat me well? Ji Hyuk was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. Quieter. My mother died when I was 12. Cancer. My father was too busy building his empire to notice her suffering until it was too late. He looked out the window. She used to say that how you treat people who can't fight back reveals who you truly are. You can't fight back, Sophie Bennett. So I'll treat you with the respect you deserve as an innocent caught in circumstances beyond your control. Sophie didn't know what to say. This glimpse of humanity beneath the cold exterior threw her completely off balance. I'm sorry about your mother, she said finally. His eyes snapped back to hers, surprised. Why? Because loss is loss. Even when it comes from someone who kidnapped me. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. Two people shaped by absent parents and impossible circumstances. Ji Hyuk stood abruptly. I have business to attend to. Sungmin will show you around the penthouse. You have access to everything except my office and the elevator. Don't test those boundaries. Or what? He paused at the doorway. Or you'll discover I'm only nice up to a point. Then he was gone, leaving Sophie alone with cooling coffee and a chest full of conflicting emotions. This story is getting intense, right? If you're hooked, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a like if you think Sophie should try to escape or stay put. The first 3 days blurred together in a strange routine Sophie never expected. Mornings started with breakfast trays appearing outside her door. Always coffee exactly how she liked it. Always fresh fruit and something warm from a Gemma Park's kitchen. Sometimes she ate alone. Sometimes Ji Hyuk would summon her to the dining room where they'd sit in tense silence, him reading news on his tablet, her cataloging escape routes she'd never have the courage to try. He left early most days. Business, Sungmin said. The kind of business Sophie didn't want details about. But Ji Hyuk always returned by evening, and somehow Sophie found herself listening for the elevator, tracking his presence in the penthouse like a compass pointing north. On day 4, everything shifted. Sophie was attempting to teach herself Korean grammar from books a Gemma Park had brought when Ji Hyuk appeared in the living room doorway. It was barely noon. He never came home this early. And he looked wrong. Tension radiated from him. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. Come with me, he said. Not a request. Sophie marked her page and followed him to his office, the one room she'd been forbidden from entering. He unlocked it and gestured her inside. The space was masculine and minimal. Dark wood desk. Leather chairs. Bookshelves filled with titles in Korean, English, and what looked like Japanese. But what caught Sophie's attention was the wall of monitors showing security feeds from around the penthouse, including her bedroom. Her stomach dropped. You've been watching me. I've been ensuring you're safe and not planning anything foolish. He moved his desk, pulled out a bottle of whiskey, poured 2 glasses. Sit. It's noon. Sit, Sophie. The use of her first name without the formal last name attached made her chest tighten in a way she didn't want to examine. She sat. He pushed a glass toward her. I'm not drinking with you. Yes, you are. He downed his own glass in one swallow, then poured another. Because what I'm about to tell you requires alcohol. Sophie's hands went cold. You found Sophie Kim. No. He sat back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. I found out who she's working with. And it's worse than I thought. Worse how? She didn't just steal money. She stole information. Client lists. Business records. Details about operations that could bring down my entire organization. His fingers tightened around his glass. And she sold it to the Huang family. Sophie had been in Korea long enough to recognize that name. The Huangs were old money. Powerful. Connected to everything from construction to entertainment to politics. And according to rumors, deeply involved in organized crime. What does that mean for me? She asked quietly. Ji Hyuk's laugh was bitter. It means you're now caught between 2 organizations instead of one. The Huangs know I'm looking for Sophie Kim. They'll be looking too. And if they find you first, they'll think I'm her. Yes. He downed his second glass. Which is why you can't leave this penthouse. Not for any reason. It's not safe. It wasn't safe before. Before, you were my problem. Now you're everyone's problem. He leaned forward, eyes boring into hers. Do you understand what I'm saying, Sophie? There are people who would torture you for information you don't have. Who would kill you just to send me a message? The only reason you're alive and unharmed is because you're here, under my protection. Sophie's hands shook. She picked up the whiskey and drank it. It burned. She welcomed the burn. This is insane, she whispered. I was just filming chicken. I was just living my life. I know. His voice softened almost imperceptibly. And I'm sorry. Truly. You didn't deserve this. But you're not letting me go. I can't. Not now. Not until this is resolved. He stood, moved to the window. Even if I wanted to, and part of me does, releasing you now would be a death sentence. The Huangs have eyes everywhere. They'd find you within hours. Sophie set down her glass before she threw it. So what? I just stay here forever? You're permanent prisoner. My permanent guest. He turned back to her. There are worse fates, Sophie Bennett. Stop calling me that. Stop using my full name like we're strangers conducting business. She stood, anger overriding fear. You've had cameras in my bedroom for 4 days. You know what pajamas I prefer. You know I talk to myself when I'm anxious. You know I cry at night when I think nobody's watching. We're way past formal, Ji-hyuk. Something flashed in his eyes. Surprise. Interest. Something else she couldn't name. You're right, he said quietly. We are past formal. The air between them felt charged. Electric. Sophie's heart hammered, but she didn't look away. Why are you really keeping me here? She asked. And don't say leverage or insurance or protection. Tell me the truth. Ji-hyuk was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because you're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me and seen a person instead of a monster. Because you argue with me. Because you have fire in you that should have been broken by now but isn't. Because he stopped, jaw clenching. Because I'm selfish and I don't want you to leave. Sophie's breath caught. That's not a good reason to keep someone prisoner. I know. He moved closer, stopping just outside her personal space. But it's the truth. You asked for truth. You kidnapped me. Yes. You're a criminal. Yes. I should hate you. You should. His eyes searched her face. Do you? Sophie opened her mouth to say yes. To lie. To maintain the distance that was the only thing keeping her sane. But the word wouldn't come. Because somewhere between the breakfast conversations and the glimpses of humanity beneath the cold exterior, something had shifted. She didn't understand it. Didn't want to examine it. But it was there, undeniable and terrifying. I don't know what I feel, she whispered. Then let me tell you what I feel. He took another step closer. I feel like I've been waiting my entire life for someone to challenge me. To see through the performance I put on for the world. To be brave enough or stupid enough to call me on my bullshit. His hand came up slowly, giving her time to move away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek. You terrify me, Sophie. Because you make me want things I have no right to want. Like what? Her voice came out breathless. Like this. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. Wasn't soft or careful. It was desperate and terrified and inevitable, like a storm that had been building for days finally breaking. Sophie's brain screamed at her to push him away, to remember he was her captor, to maintain her anger and fear. Her body had different ideas. She kissed him back. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. His arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her slightly. She made a sound, surprise or pleasure, she couldn't tell, and he swallowed it, deepening the kiss. It was wrong. So completely wrong. But it felt like the first right thing in days. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back in. We can't, Sophie gasped. I'm your prisoner. You're not. His forehead pressed against hers. You stopped being my prisoner the moment I decided I couldn't let you go. Now you're something far more dangerous. What? You're a choice I'm making. Every day. Every moment. His thumb traced her jaw. Stay, Sophie. Not because you're forced. Because you want to. That's insane. You kidnapped me. I know. I should run screaming. You should. Why aren't I? His smile was sad. Maybe because you're as broken as I am. Maybe because you feel it too, this thing between us that shouldn't exist but does. He kissed her forehead gently. Or maybe you're just crazy. I haven't decided which yet. Sophie laughed despite everything. Actual laughter that bubbled up from her chest. You're impossible. I've been told. He stepped back, putting distance between them. I won't touch you again unless you ask me to. You have my word. The word of a criminal. The word of a man who's found something he didn't know he was looking for. He moved toward the door. Think about what I said. About staying. About choosing this instead of it being forced on you. We'll talk tomorrow. He left her standing in his office, lips still tingling, heart racing, mind spinning with impossible questions. Like why she wasn't running. Like why that kiss felt less like an assault and more like coming home. Like why the thought of leaving Ji-hyuk now made her chest ache in ways she absolutely couldn't afford to examine. Okay, I need you to pause and really process what just happened. If you're feeling the tension, hit that like button. Comment below whether you think Sophie should trust Ji-hyuk or not. And subscribe. Sophie didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed replaying the kiss over and over. The way his hands had felt against her skin. The desperate edge in his voice when he'd called her dangerous. The impossible choice he'd laid at her feet, stay willingly or stay as a prisoner, but either way, stay. By morning, she'd convinced herself it was temporary insanity. Stockholm Syndrome. Her brain protecting itself from trauma by manufacturing feelings that didn't exist. Then Ji-hyuk knocked on her door at 7 a.m. with coffee and croissants, and the way he looked at her, careful and hopeful and terrified, shattered every rationalization she'd built. We need to talk, he said. That's never a good sign. Neither is kidnapping someone and then kissing them, but here we are. He set the tray down. May I come in? Sophie gestured him inside, acutely aware she was wearing sleep shorts and an oversized t-shirt. He averted his eyes respectfully and sat in the chair by the window, maintaining careful distance. I meant what I said yesterday, he started. I won't touch you unless you want me to. But I need you to understand something about the situation we're in. We're not in a situation. You put me in a situation. Fair. He accepted the correction without argument. The Hwangs are escalating. They've put a bounty on Sophie Kim, 500 million won for information leading to her capture. Every criminal in Seoul is looking for her now. Sophie's stomach dropped. And they all think she looks like me. Some of them have seen the surveillance footage from your kidnapping. Your face is out there, Sophie. Associated with Sophie Kim's name. His hands clenched. I've had 3 different organizations reach out asking if I'd captured her. If I'm willing to sell. What did you tell them? That the bounty is mine and they can back off or face consequences. His eyes met hers. I claimed you. Publicly. Do you understand what that means? That I'm your property now? That you're under my protection? That anyone who touches you answers to me personally? He leaned forward. In my world, that's the equivalent of painting a target on my own back. I've made enemies, powerful ones, by refusing to hand you over. Sophie processed this. Why would you do that? Because the alternative is watching you be tortured for information you don't have. His voice went cold. And I've seen what the Hwangs do to people. I won't let that happen to you. So noble. My kidnapper has a conscience. Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't diminish this. I'm risking everything, my organization, my reputation, my life, to keep you safe. The least you can do is acknowledge that. He was right and Sophie hated it. She pulled her knees to her chest. What do you want from me, Ji-hyuk? Really? He stood, moved to the window, hands in his pockets. The morning light caught his profile, sharp and beautiful and dangerous. I want you to stop looking at me like I'm the enemy. I want to have breakfast with you without tension thick enough to cut. He stopped, jaw working. Want what? I want to know you. Really know you. Not just facts from a background check, but you. Your dreams. Your fears. What makes you laugh? What keeps you awake at night besides being kidnapped by a mafia boss? He turned back to her. I want a chance, Sophie. A real one. Not as captor and captive, but as 2 people who might actually have something worth exploring. Sophie's heart hammered. That's impossible. Why? Because of how we started. Because you took my choice away. So I'm giving it back. He crossed the room, knelt in front of her chair so they were eye level. Right now. This moment. You choose. I'll arrange for you to leave Korea safely. New identity, new city, money to start over. I'll make sure the Hwangs never find you. You'll be free. Just like that. Just like that. Or, his hand came up slowly, palm open, an offering not a demand. Or you stay. Willingly. Consciously. And we figure out what this is between us. Sophie stared at his hand. At the choice he was offering. Her brain screamed to take the escape. Her heart whispered something different entirely. If I stay, she said slowly, what does that look like? It looks like you having actual freedom within these walls. No more locked doors. No more cameras in your bedroom. Access to phones, internet, the outside world through balconies and terraces. He paused. It looks like me courting you properly instead of keeping you prisoner. Courting. Sophie laughed despite herself. Nobody says courting anymore. What should I call it? Insanity. Terrible judgment. Stockholm Syndrome with extra steps. His lips twitched. All accurate. But that doesn't answer my question. Stay or go, Sophie. Choose. She should choose to go. Should take the escape and never look back. Should run from this beautiful, dangerous man who made her feel alive in ways she'd never experienced. Instead, she placed her hand in his. I must be crazy, she whispered. His fingers closed around hers, gentle but secure. That makes two of us. I have conditions. Name them. No more cameras in my private spaces. No more monitoring my every move. If I stay with dignity. Done. I want to call my mother. Really call her, not fake texts. She deserves to hear my voice. I'll arrange a secure line. What else? Sophie's next words came out before she could stop them. Teach me your world. If I'm staying in it, I need to understand it. No more secrets about what you do or who you are. Ji Hyok's expression darkened. Sophie, some things you're better off not knowing. That's not your choice to make anymore. You want me to stay willingly? Then I stay informed. All of it. The good, the bad, the parts that'll make me want to run. She squeezed his hand. I need to know who you really are, Ji Hyok. Not the version you show the world. The real you. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you when you discover I'm worse than you imagined. Or maybe I'll discover you're better than you think you are. Something vulnerable flashed across his face. Nobody's ever believed that before. Then it's about time someone did. He stood, pulling her up with him. They stood close, his hand still holding hers. This is a terrible idea. The worst, Sophie agreed. We're going to regret this. Probably. But we're doing it anyway? She nodded. We're doing it anyway. Ji Hyok smiled. Actually smiled, full and genuine and transformative. It knocked the breath from Sophie's lungs. Then let me take you somewhere, he said. Somewhere I've never taken anyone else. Somewhere that's just mine. 20 minutes later, Sophie found herself on a private rooftop garden she hadn't known existed. It was hidden behind an access door Sungmin unlocked with 3 different keys. The space was small but lush, real grass, flowering plants, a single bench beneath a cherry tree that wouldn't bloom for months. I come here to think, Ji Hyok said quietly. When the weight of everything becomes too much. It's the only place in Seoul where I can breathe. Sophie turned in a slow circle, taking it all in. The Han River glittered in the distance. The city sprawled in every direction. But up here, it felt removed. Peaceful. Like a secret carved out of chaos. It's beautiful. My mother planted that tree before she died. He moved to touch the bark gently. She said every monster needs something beautiful to remind them they're human. I was 12 and didn't understand. Now he trailed off. Sophie moved beside him. Now you do. Now I do. He looked at her. You remind me too. That I'm human beneath everything else. Ji Hyok. Dance with me. What? He pulled out his phone, tapped something. Soft music drifted from hidden speakers. Nothing Sophie recognized. Something instrumental and melancholy and achingly beautiful. There's no music in my life, he said, extending his hand. Only business and blood and survival. Dance with me, Sophie. Help me remember what it feels like to do something just because I want to. It was the most vulnerable she'd seen him. This powerful, dangerous man asking for something as simple and human as a dance. Sophie took his hand. They swayed together beneath the cherry tree, the city sprawling below them, the morning sun warming their skin. His arms around her waist felt less like a cage and more like safety. Her head fit perfectly against his shoulder. Tell me something real, she whispered. Something nobody else knows. His chest rose and fell against hers. I'm terrified of becoming my father. He built an empire but destroyed everything good in his life. My mother. His honor. Any chance at happiness? His hand spread across her back. I swore I'd be different. Better. But every day I make choices that prove I'm exactly like him. You're not. How do you know? Because your father wouldn't have given me a choice. Wouldn't have brought me to his secret garden. Wouldn't be dancing with me like I'm something precious instead of something owned. She pulled back to look at him. You're trying, Ji-hyuk. That's more than he ever did. His hand came up to cup her face. You see the best in people, even when they don't deserve it. Maybe you deserve it more than you think. He kissed her then. Soft this time. Gentle. Like she was something that might break. Sophie melted into it, her hands sliding up his chest to loop around his neck. The kiss deepened slowly, a conversation without words. When they finally broke apart, Ji-hyuk pressed his forehead to hers. Stay with me. Not as my prisoner. As my he paused, searching for the word. As your what? I don't know what to call it. Partner seems wrong. Girlfriend seems insufficient. His thumb traced her cheekbone. As mine. However that manifests. Just mine. Yours, Sophie repeated. Testing the word. It should have felt like ownership. Instead it felt like belonging. Is that a yes? She kissed him instead of answering. Long and deep and full of 1,000 questions she didn't have answers for. When she finally pulled back, she whispered against his lips. It's a yes. God help me, it's a yes. If your heart is racing right now, smash that like button. Comment Team Ji-hyuk if you're rooting for them or Team Run Sophie Run if you think she's making a huge mistake. And make sure you're subscribed. The next week passed in a strange dreamlike haze that Sophie couldn't quite believe was real. Ji-hyuk kept his promises. The cameras in her bedroom disappeared. The locks on her door remained open. He gave her a phone, monitored for her safety, he explained, but hers to use. She called her mother that first night, lying about exploring Jeju Island's beaches, hating every false word, but hearing the relief in her mom's voice made it worth it. And Ji-hyuk courted her. Actually courted her. He brought her coffee every morning, learning exactly how she liked it, 2 sugars, splash of cream, heated to just below scalding. They had breakfast together on the terrace overlooking the Han River, talking about everything except his business. She told him about growing up in Chicago, about her father leaving, about working 3 jobs to help pay her mother's medical bills while finishing her communications degree. He listened like every word mattered. In return, he showed her pieces of himself nobody else saw. How he read poetry in 3 languages when he couldn't sleep. How he'd taught himself to cook because his mother used to say a man who could feed himself could survive anything. How he visited her grave every year on her birthday and told her about his life, hoping somehow she could hear him. Do you think she'd be proud of you? Sophie asked one morning over coffee. Ji-hyuk's expression shuddered. No. She wanted me to be a doctor. Save lives instead of he stopped. Instead of taking them? His jaw tightened. Yes. Sophie reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. You saved mine. That counts for something. I'm the reason yours needed saving in the first place. Details. She squeezed his hand. I'm choosing to focus on the part where you've kept me alive and given me the best coffee I've had in Korea. His lips twitched. Your standards for heroism are concerningly low. Or maybe I just see potential where others see monsters. Something vulnerable flashed across his face. He turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. They sat like that for a long moment, the morning sun warming their joined hands, the city waking up below them. But reality couldn't be ignored forever. On day 8, Ji-hyuk came home early with tension rolling off him in waves. Sophie was reading on the living room couch when he entered. She knew immediately something was wrong. What happened? He poured himself whiskey despite it being barely noon. Downed it. Poured another. The Huangs made a move. They hit one of my warehouses. Burned it to the ground. 3 of my men are in the hospital. Sophie's stomach dropped. Are they okay? They will be. But it's a message. They're escalating. He turned to face her. They want Sophie Kim. They think I have her. And they're willing to start a war to get her. But you don't have her. I'm not her. They don't believe that. They think I'm playing games. Hiding her. His hands clenched around the glass. My second in command wants me to hand you over. Prove you're not who they think you are. Fear spiked through Sophie's chest. And then what? They kill me anyway because I've seen too much. Exactly why I told him to go to hell. Ji-hyuk set down his glass and crossed to her. But Sophie, this is going to get worse before it gets better. The Huangs don't back down. Neither do I. That means war. Sophie finished quietly. You're going to war over me. I'm going to war over principle. Over refusing to be bullied by men who think power means they can take whatever they want. His hands framed her face. But yes, also over you. Because you're mine to protect and I don't break my promises. People are going to die. People die in my world regardless. At least this way it means something. Sophie pulled back. How can you be so calm about this? About violence and death and... Because it's all I've ever known. His voice went flat. My father raised me in this world. Taught me that mercy is weakness. That caring about anything makes you vulnerable. That the only way to survive is to be harder and colder and more ruthless than everyone around you. He moved to the window. And then you stumbled into my life and made me care about something other than survival. Made me want to be the man my mother hoped I'd become instead of the monster my father trained me to be. Sophie's chest ached. Ji-hyuk, I need to show you something. He turned back to her. Something I should have shown you before. Before you agreed to stay. Before this went any further. Okay. He led her back to his office. Pulled up security footage on his monitors. This is from 3 years ago. A territorial dispute with a rival organization. They ambushed my men. Killed 2 of them. Sophie watched the grainy footage. Watched Ji-hyuk arrive at the scene. Watched what happened next. The violence was clinical. Efficient. Terrifying. Ji-hyuk moved through armed men like a force of nature, taking them down one by one without hesitation or mercy. When it was over, 5 men lay dead or dying. Ji-hyuk stood in the center of the carnage, barely winded, his suit splattered with blood that wasn't his. Sophie's hands shook. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to see who I really am. Not the man who brings you coffee and dances with you in the garden. The man who kills without hesitation when necessary. The monster beneath the poetry. He paused the footage on his own face, cold and empty, and nothing like the man who'd held her so gently. This is what you're choosing, Sophie. This is what being mine means. Sophie stared at the screen. At the evidence of his capacity for violence. Every instinct screamed at her to run. To take back her choice. To save herself before she got pulled deeper into his world. Instead, she looked at him, really looked at him. At the tension in his shoulders. The way his hands clenched. The fear in his eyes that she'd see this and leave. You're trying to scare me away, she said quietly. I'm trying to be honest with you. No, you're testing me. Showing me your worst and waiting for me to run so you can tell yourself this was inevitable. That you're unlovable. That you don't deserve anything good. She stood, moved toward him. But I'm not running, Ji-hyuk. You should be. Probably. She stopped in front of him. But you know what I see when I watch that footage? I see a man protecting his people. I see someone who didn't start that fight but finished it to keep others safe. I see violence, yes. But I also see control. Purpose. Not a monster killing for pleasure, but a man doing what he thought necessary to survive. His breath caught. You're making excuses for me. I'm seeing context you won't let yourself see. Her hand came up to touch his face. I'm not naive, Ji-hyuk. I know what you are. What you've done. What you're capable of. And I'm choosing to stay anyway. Not because I'm broken or blind, but because I see all of you, the darkness and the light, and I'm choosing all of it. For a long moment, he just stared at her like she was speaking a language he couldn't understand. Then he kissed her desperately, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her close like she might disappear if he didn't hold tight enough. Sophie kissed him back with equal intensity. Her fingers slid under his jacket, feeling the solid warmth of him, the rapid beat of his heart that proved he was human beneath everything else. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hyuk pressed his forehead to hers. You terrify me. Good. You terrify me too. Sophie, show me more. Her hands gripped his shirt. You said you'd show me your world. All of it. Show me. His eyes darkened. You don't know what you're asking. Then explain it to me. He pulled back slightly, studying her face. Whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. Okay, but not today. Today I need, he stopped, jaw working. Need what? To forget for a few hours that the world is closing in. To pretend we're just 2 people instead of a criminal and the woman he's putting in danger just by keeping her close. His thumb traced her jaw. Help me forget, Sophie. It wasn't a demand. It was a plea. This powerful, dangerous man asking her for something as simple as respite from the weight he carried. Sophie took his hand and led him from the office. Down the hall. To his bedroom, the one room in the penthouse she hadn't entered yet. It was as minimalist as the rest of his space. Dark sheets. Simple furniture. But the bed was enormous, and when she turned to face him, the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "Once we cross this line, there's no going back." "We crossed the line the moment I chose to stay." She stepped closer. "I'm sure, Ji-hyuk. Show me what it means to be yours." His control snapped. He kissed her hard, walking her backward until her knees hit the bed. They fell together, his weight pressing her into expensive sheets, his hands everywhere at once. Sophie's fingers worked at the buttons of his shirt, desperate to feel skin. When she finally got it open, she froze. His entire torso was covered in tattoos, intricate traditional designs that must have taken years to complete. A dragon curled across his ribs. Flowers bloomed over his shoulders. Korean characters she couldn't read marked his collarbone. "It's beautiful," she whispered, tracing the lines with her fingers. "It's armor. Protection. Each piece represents." He stopped when she kissed his chest, right over his heart. "Sophie, show me," she said against his skin. "Show me all of you." What happened next was desperate and tender and absolutely inevitable. They came together like storms colliding, all heat and need and the release of weeks of tension. Ji-hyuk touched her like she was precious and breakable and the most important thing in his world. Sophie gave herself over to sensation, to the feeling of finally being fully chosen. Afterward, they lay tangled in his sheets, both breathing hard, reality suspended for a few perfect moments. Ji-hyuk's fingers traced patterns on her skin. "I've never brought anyone here. To my bedroom. My private space. Never. Never." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "This is yours now. All of it. My space, my secrets, my trust. Everything I am belongs to you." Sophie rolled to face him. "That's a lot of responsibility. Can you handle it?" She kissed him softly. "I guess we'll find out together." His arms tightened around her. They stayed like that for hours, the world outside forgotten. Just two people who'd found something neither expected in the absolutely worst possible circumstances. But reality always intrudes eventually. If you're invested in Sophie and Ji-hyuk's impossible relationship, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment with a heart emoji if you're feeling the chemistry or a fire emoji if you think this is all going to blow up spectacularly. And like this video because what's coming next is going to test everything they just built. Sophie woke to the sound of shouting. For a disoriented moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt the silk sheets, the warmth of Ji-hyuk beside her, and remembered everything. The choice she'd made. The line they'd crossed. The feeling of finally belonging somewhere, even if that somewhere was a mafia boss's bed. More shouting. Rapid Korean. Angry voices from somewhere in the penthouse. Ji-hyuk was already awake, tension radiating from him. "Stay here." "What's happening?" "I don't know yet." He pulled on pants, grabbed a shirt. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Ajuma Park." Ji-hyuk. He kissed her hard and fast. "Trust me. I'll handle this." Then he was gone, closing the door behind him. Sophie heard the lock click from the outside and wanted to be angry about being locked in again, but the fear in his eyes had been real. She pressed her ear to the door, straining to hear. The voices were muffled, but she caught fragments. Ji-hyuk's voice, cold and commanding. Another man's voice, older, harder. Arguing in Korean too rapid for her limited vocabulary to follow. Then a crash. Something breaking. A woman's scream, Ajuma Park. Sophie's blood ran cold. She tried the door handle. Still locked. She pounded on it. Ji-hyuk. What's happening? No response. More shouting. The unmistakable sound of a gun cocking. Sophie backed away from the door, heart hammering, mind racing. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. No signal. Ji-hyuk must have killed it remotely. She looked around desperately for something, anything she could use as a weapon. Then the door exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. Someone had kicked it hard enough to splinter the lock. A man stood in the doorway, 50s, expensive suit, cold eyes that raked over Sophie with calculated assessment. Behind him stood 3 more men with guns. So this is her, the older man said in perfect English. The woman my son is willing to start a war over. Sophie's mouth went dry. You're Ji Hyok's father, Lee Dongwoo. And you're the complication that's going to get my son killed. He stepped into the room, his men flanking him. What's your name, girl? Sophie Bennett. Not Sophie Kim? No. Your son's men grabbed the wrong person. I'm nobody. Just an American food blogger who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Dongwoo's eyes narrowed. He pulled out his phone, showed her the same surveillance photo Ji Hyok had shown her weeks ago. The Huangs have 15 million won on your head. They think you're Sophie Kim. They think my son is hiding her. Because of you, they've declared war on my organization. 3 of my men are dead. 5 more injured. Millions in property damage. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back the dead. He moved closer and Sophie pressed back against the wall. I told my son to hand you over. Let the Huangs discover their mistake on their own. But he refused. Said you were under his protection. That he'd claimed you publicly and his honor demanded he keep you safe. He was protecting an innocent. He was being weak. Dongwoo's voice cracked like a whip. Love makes men stupid. Makes them vulnerable. I watched it destroy his mother, and I won't watch it destroy him. Sophie's heart pounded. Where is he? What did you do to Ji Hyok? He's alive. For now. Locked in his office having a conversation with my advisors about loyalty and priorities. Dongwoo studied her with those cold, calculating eyes. You care about him. I can see it. Which means you understand what I'm about to offer. I'm not making deals with you. You'll make this one. He pulled out a gun, checked it casually. Leave. Tonight. I'll arrange everything: new identity, money, safe passage out of Korea. You disappear and my son forgets you existed. He goes back to being the ruthless heir I trained him to be. And if I refuse? Then I'll hand you to the Huangs myself and watch them discover their mistake the hard way. Either scenario, you're gone. But one way you live and one way you don't. Your choice. Sophie's hands shook, but she kept her voice steady. Ji Hyok won't forgive you for this. He'll hate me for a while. Then he'll realize I saved him from himself. Dongwoo moved toward the door. You have 1 hour to decide. My men will be waiting. He left. The 3 armed men remained, blocking the exit. Sophie sank onto the bed, mind racing. She could run. Should run. This was her chance at freedom. At safety. At a life that didn't involve wars and violence and impossible choices. But it also meant leaving Ji Hyok. Leaving him to his father's control. Leaving him to become the monster he'd been fighting so hard not to be. The door crashed open again. This time it was Ji Hyok. His lip was split, blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were blazing with rage. The guards moved to block him, but he cut through them like smoke, disarming one and using the gun to force the others back. Get out, he commanded, voice deadly quiet. Tell my father if he sends anyone near her again, I'll put a bullet in them myself. I don't care whose men they are. The guards exchanged glances, then retreated. Ji Hyok locked what was left of the door and turned to Sophie. The rage melted into concern. Did they hurt you? No. Your father came. Made an offer. Sophie stood on shaky legs. He wants me to leave. Said he'd give me money, new identity, safe passage if I disappeared from your life. Ji Hyok's jaw clenched. What did you tell him? I told him I needed an hour to think. Something painful flashed across his face. So you're considering it? Of course I'm considering it. Sophie's voice cracked. Your father just threatened to hand me to people who want to torture me. 3 of your men are dead because of me. You're at war with the Huangs because of me. How can I not consider leaving when my being here is destroying everything? You're not destroying anything. My father is. The Huangs are. This situation is. He crossed to her, hands gentle on her shoulders. But not you. Never you. Ji Hyok. Listen to me. His forehead pressed against hers. I've spent my entire life doing what my father wanted. Becoming who he needed me to be. Following his rules, his codes, his vision for what I should become. And I was miserable. Empty. Going through motions of a life that never felt like mine. You can't throw away everything for me. I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing something different. Choosing you over duty. Choosing happiness over obligation. Choosing to be the man I want to be instead of the monster he trained me to become. His hands framed her face. Stay, Sophie. Please. Don't let him win. Don't let him take away the one good thing I've ever chosen for myself. Tears burned Sophie's eyes. People are dying. People die in my world every day. At least this way it's for something that matters. For someone who makes me want to be better. Who sees past the violence to the man underneath. He kissed her softly. You said you were choosing all of me. Did you mean it? Yes, but... Then choose this too. Choose staying even when it's hard. Even when it's dangerous. Even when the logical thing is to run. His thumb wiped away a tear tracking down her cheek. I know I have no right to ask. I know keeping you puts you at risk. But I'm asking anyway because I'm selfish and I need you, and I don't know how to do this without you anymore. Sophie's heart cracked open. This powerful, dangerous man laid bare and vulnerable, asking her to stay not because he owned her but because he needed her. Because somehow in the chaos of their impossible situation, they'd found something worth fighting for. Your father will never accept me, she whispered. Then I'll break from him completely. Start my own organization. Go legitimate. Whatever it takes. His hands tightened on her face. I spent 34 years being his son. Let me spend the rest of my life being your... He stopped, searching for the word. My what? Whatever you'll let me be. Partner. Protector. The man who loves you even though he has no right to. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. I love you, Sophie. I don't know when it happened or how, but it did. And I won't apologize for it even if I should. Sophie's breath caught. You love me. Terrifyingly. Completely. Against all logic and reason. He smiled sadly. You can still leave. I won't stop you. Won't force you to stay just because I need you to. But know that if you go, you're taking the best parts of me with you. The parts you helped me find. The parts that remember how to be human instead of just a weapon my father aimed at his enemies. Sophie looked at this beautiful broken man who'd kidnapped her and courted her and shown her depths of feeling she'd never experienced. Every rational thought screamed to run. To take the escape his father offered. To choose safety over this impossible dangerous love. Instead, she pulled him down and kissed him. Long and deep and full of answer she didn't have words for. When they broke apart, Ji-hyuk was shaking. Is that a yes? It's a yes. It's an I love you too even though it's insane. It's a I'm staying even though your father will make our lives hell. It's a her voice cracked. It's a choice I'm making with my eyes open, knowing exactly what it costs. His arms crushed her against him. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you've got me anyway. She pulled back to look at him. But Ji-hyuk, we need to end this. The war with the Hwangs. The danger. All of it. I won't let more people die because of mistaken identity. How? We find the real Sophie Kim. We get her to return what she stole. We end this before it destroys everything you've built. Ji-hyuk studied her face. That's dangerous. If we go after her, we draw attention. Make ourselves targets. We're already targets. At least this way we're taking control instead of just reacting. Sophie's hands gripped his shirt. I can help. I know how to research, how to find information online. Between your resources and my skills, we can track her down. A slow smile crossed his face. You're incredible. You know that? I'm terrified. But I'm also done being passive while the world burns around us. Then let's burn it down ourselves and build something better from the ashes. He kissed her forehead. Starting with having a conversation with my father about boundaries and consequences. He's not going to like this. Good. I've spent too long caring what he likes. Ji-hyuk took her hand. Ready to tell a mafia boss to go to hell? Sophie laughed despite everything. With you? Always. They walked out of the bedroom together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Together. If your heart is pounding right now, you need to hit that like button immediately. Comment Team Sophie and Ji-hyuk if you're rooting for them against his father, or Team Dongwoo if you think he's right to split them up. And subscribe. Lee Dongwoo sat in Ji-hyuk's living room like he owned it. Which technically, Sophie supposed, he probably did. He'd poured himself whiskey from Ji-hyuk's personal bottle and was reviewing something on his phone when they entered. He looked up, eyes moving from his son to Sophie and back again. His expression didn't change, but something cold entered his gaze. I see you've made your choice, Dongwoo said in English, presumably for Sophie's benefit. I have. Ji-hyuk's hand tightened around Sophie's. She stays. That's not negotiable. Everything is negotiable, boy. You just haven't learned that yet. Dongwoo set down his glass. You're willing to split the organization over a woman you've known for 2 weeks? I'm willing to split the organization over you threatening someone under my protection. Over you thinking you can still control my life like I'm 12 years old. Ji Hyok's voice was steel. I'm 34, father. I've run your operations for 10 years. I've built half your empire. And I'm done taking orders. Dongwoo's joy tightened. You ungrateful. Ungrateful. Ji Hyok laughed bitterly. I gave you everything. My childhood. My choices. Any chance at a normal life. I became exactly what you wanted me to become: ruthless, controlled, efficient. And it was never enough. You always wanted more. More violence. More territory. More proof that I was your son and not hers. The mention of Ji Hyok's mother made Dongwoo flinch. Don't bring her into this. Why not? She's the reason you're like this. The reason you think love is weakness. Because you loved her and she died anyway, and you decided that meant caring about anything was a liability. Ji Hyok moved closer to his father. But I'm not you. I won't spend my life closed off and empty just because you're too afraid to feel anything. You think love makes you strong? Dongwoo stood, matching his son's intensity. It makes you vulnerable. Gives your enemies leverage. That woman standing beside you is a weapon anyone can use against you. Then I'll protect her better than you protected mother. The words hung in the air like a slap. Dongwoo's expression went dangerously blank. You want to know why I didn't protect your mother better? His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Because I was too busy protecting you. The Huang's predecessors came after my family. Threatened to kill everyone I loved unless I gave up territory. I chose you, Ji Hyok. I let your mother die to save you. The color drained from Ji Hyok's face. What? She had cancer, yes. But it was treatable. Curable, even if caught early enough. But treatment required I take her to specialists. Required I be distracted. Required I show weakness. Dongwoo's hands clenched. So I made a choice. I let her condition worsen while I handled the threat. By the time I'd secured your safety, it was too late. The cancer had spread. Sophie's heart broke watching Ji Hyok process this. His entire body had gone rigid, his breathing shallow. You let her die, Ji Hyok said numbly. I chose you over her. And I'd make the same choice again because you're my legacy. My heir. The future of everything I've built. Dongwoo moved closer to his son. Now you're making the same choice I did, her or the organization. But unlike me, you're choosing wrong. You're choosing the woman over the legacy. And it will destroy you. No. Ji Hyok's voice was steady now, certain. You destroyed yourself by making that choice. By letting guilt and grief turn you into something mother would have hated. By teaching me that love is weakness when it's actually the only thing that makes any of this matter. Naive child. I'm not a child. The words exploded from Ji Hyok. I'm a man making a different choice than you did. A better choice. I'm choosing Sophie and the organization. I'm choosing to end this war with the Huangs intelligently instead of just bleeding men and resources. I'm choosing to be the leader you trained me to be while also being the man mother hoped I'd become. Dongwoo shook his head slowly. You can't have both. Watch me. Ji Hyok pulled Sophie closer. Here's what's going to happen. Sophie and I are going to find the real Sophie Kim. We're going to recover what she stole from the Huangs and return it, removing any reason for this war to continue. Then I'm going to sit down with Huang leadership and negotiate peace. They'll never. They will if we give them what they want. If we prove Sophie Bennett isn't Sophie Kim. If we show them we're willing to be reasonable. Ji Hyok's eyes locked onto his father's. And you're going to support this. Publicly. You're going to tell the organization that I have your full backing. And if I refuse? Then I walk. I take everyone loyal to me, and that's more than half your operation, and I start my own organization. One built on intelligence and strategy instead of just brute force. One that makes money without unnecessary bloodshed. One that doesn't sacrifice everything good for power. Sophie watched Dongwoo's face carefully. She saw the moment he realized his son was serious. The moment he understood that pushing harder would lose Ji Hyok completely. You'd really split the family over her, Dongwoo said quietly. I'd split the family over you trying to control my life. Over you thinking fear and violence are the only tools that matter. Over you refusing to evolve. Ji Hyok's voice softened slightly. I loved mother too, father. And I know you did everything you thought necessary to protect me. But the cost was too high. I won't pay that same price. I won't sacrifice the woman I love for an empire built on everyone's misery. For a long moment, Dongwoo just stared at his son. Then he picked up his whiskey and finished it in one swallow. You have 2 weeks, he said finally. Find Sophie Kim. Recover the money. End this war. If you succeed, I'll step back. Let you run things your way. But if you fail, if this woman gets you killed or destroys what I've spent 40 years building, I'll finish this myself. My way. Understood. Dongwoo moved toward the door, then paused. She's not your mother, Ji Hyuk. Your mother was soft. Kind. She couldn't survive in our world even when I tried to protect her. His eyes moved to Sophie. This one has teeth. I can see it. Maybe she'll do what your mother couldn't. Maybe she'll survive loving you. Then he was gone, his guards following, leaving Sophie and Ji Hyuk alone in the sudden silence. Ji Hyuk's legs gave out. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. Sophie immediately moved to him, kneeling in front of him, her hands covering his. I didn't know, he said hoarsely. About my mother. About him choosing me over her. I always thought he just didn't care enough to save her. He cared too much, Sophie said softly. He just cared wrong. He thought love meant sacrifice when it should have meant fighting to keep everyone safe. And now I'm doing the same thing. Choosing you. Putting you at risk. He looked up, eyes devastated. What if he's right? What if loving you gets you killed? Then I die knowing I was loved. Knowing I mattered to someone. Knowing I chose this life with my eyes open. Sophie moved onto the couch beside him, pulling his head onto her shoulder. But I'm not going to die, Ji Hyuk. We're going to end this together. We're going to find Sophie Kim and fix this mess and prove to your father that there's another way. How are you so brave? Because I'm terrified and doing it anyway. That's what bravery is. She kissed his temple. And because I believe in you. In us. In what we could build together if we just survived the next 2 weeks. Ji Hyuk lifted his head, eyes searching her face. I love you. I know I already said it, but I need you to hear it again. I love you, Sophie Bennett. More than I've ever loved anything. More than I thought I was capable of loving. I love you too. She cupped his face. Now let's find this other Sophie and end this war before your father decides to end it for us. The next morning, they started the hunt in earnest. Ji Hyuk pulled up everything his organization had on Sophie Kim, known associates, last sightings, financial records, travel history. Sophie used her research skills to track digital footprints, social media activity, patterns that might reveal where someone would hide after stealing from the Mafia. She's smart, Sophie said, scrolling through records. She's been covering her tracks well. But she made a mistake here. She used a VPN, but not consistently. There's a gap 3 days ago where her actual location pinged. Look. Ji Hyuk leaned over her shoulder, studying the screen. His proximity made it hard to focus, but Sophie forced herself to concentrate. Busan, he said. She's in Busan. Not just Busan. Haeundae specifically. Tourist area. Easy to disappear in crowds. Sophie pulled up more data. And look at this. There's a hostel in that area that caters specifically to digital nomads. Young Americans and Europeans who work remotely. She'd blend in perfectly. You're brilliant. Ji Hyuk kissed the back of her neck. How did you learn to do this? Chicago public schools and a lot of true crime podcasts. Sophie grinned despite the tension. Plus, I had to track down my father once when he skipped out on child support. Turns out those skills transfer. Ji Hyuk pulled out his phone. I'm sending a team to Busan. We'll have eyes on that hostel within 3 hours. No. Sophie turned to face him. No team. Just us. Sophie, that's too dangerous. A team of obvious mafia guys descending on a hostel will spook her. She'll run again and we'll lose her. Sophie grabbed his hands. But 2 people who look like tourists? A couple traveling Korea? We can get close without alarming her. Talk to her. Convince her to return what she stole in exchange for immunity. The Huangs will never offer immunity. Then you will. Your organization. Your protection. She returns the money and information. You guarantee her safety from the Huangs. Sophie squeezed his hands. It's the only way this works without more bloodshed. Ji Hyuk studied her face, conflict clear in his expression. Finally, he nodded. Okay, but we do this my way. Armed guards nearby. Exit strategies. And at the first sign of trouble, you run. Understood. Understood. Sophie stood. When do we leave? Tonight. We'll drive down. Less traceable than flying. He pulled her close. This is really happening. We're doing this. We're doing this. She kissed him softly. Together. Sophie and Ji Hyuk are about to walk into serious danger, and we're on the edge of our seats. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see how this hunt ends. Drop a comment predicting whether they'll find Sophie Kim or if this is all a trap. And smash that like button. The drive to Busan took 5 hours through darkness and rain. Ji Hyuk drove, one hand on the wheel, the other holding Sophie's. They'd both dressed casually, jeans, sweaters, looking every bit like a couple on a romantic getaway instead of a mafia boss and the woman he'd kidnapped hunting a hacker who'd stolen millions. Tell me about her, Sophie said as the city lights faded behind them. The real Sophie Kim. What do you know? Ji Hyuk's jaw tightened. 27. Korean American. Grew up in LA, computer science degree from Berkeley. Worked legitimate tech jobs until 2 years ago when she got recruited by a hacking collective. Started small, stealing data, selling information. Then she got ambitious. And stole from you. From both me and the Huangs. 10 billion won worth of cryptocurrency plus encrypted files containing client information, business records, offshore account numbers. Everything needed to destroy both organizations. His fingers tightened on the steering wheel. She was hired by someone to steal it. We just don't know who. Sophie processed this. So she's not working alone. No. Which makes this more complicated. Whoever hired her wants chaos. Wants the Korean underworld destabilized. Ji Hyuk glanced at her. You still want to do this? Face someone who's proven she's willing to bring down empires. Yes. Because the alternative is war and more death and your father taking control again. Sophie squeezed his hand. We end this tonight. They arrived in Busan just after midnight. The hostel was in a narrow building near Haeundae Beach, tucked between convenience stores and cafes. Exactly the kind of place young travelers gravitated toward. Ji Hyuk had booked them a private room under false names, Kim Minjun and Lee Si-chin, a Korean-Chinese couple touring the coast. The night clerk barely looked up when they checked in. Perfect. Their room was small but clean. Single bed. Shared bathroom down the hall. The window overlooked the street where Ji Hyuk's men waited in unmarked cars, invisible but present. She's here, Ji Hyuk said, checking his phone. 3rd floor. Room 12. My men confirmed her arrival 3 hours ago. So we wait until morning? We wait until morning. He set down his phone and pulled Sophie close. And we try to sleep even though that's impossible. Sophie wrapped her arms around him. Are you scared? Terrified. Not of finding her. Of losing you in the process. His hand slid into her hair. If anything goes wrong tomorrow, if the Huangs show up, if this is a trap, if anything happens, you run. Don't wait for me. Don't try to help. Just run and call the number I programmed into your phone. My men will extract you. I'm not leaving you. Sophie. No. She pulled back to look at him. We're in this together. I don't run unless you run. We both make it out or neither of us does. That's not. She kissed him, cutting off the argument. Poured everything into it, all her fear and love and determination. When she finally pulled back, his eyes were dark with emotion. You're impossible, he whispered. You're stubborn. We're perfect for each other. Terribly. She smiled against his lips. Now stop trying to make me promise to abandon you and just hold me until morning. They lay together in the narrow bed, neither sleeping, just holding each other as the rain pattered against the window. Sophie memorized the feeling of his arms around her, the steady beat of his heart, the way he kissed her forehead every few minutes like he needed to confirm she was still there. Morning came too soon. They dressed carefully, Sophie in jeans and a simple top, Ji Hyuk in dark clothing that concealed the gun at his back. They looked like tourists heading for breakfast. Nobody would see the weapons or the fear or the weight of what they were about to do. Ready? Ji Hyuk asked at the door. No. Let's do it anyway. They climbed to the 3rd floor. Room 12 was at the end of the hall, door closed, no sound from inside. Ji Hyuk positioned himself to the side, gesturing for Sophie to knock. Sophie Kim? Sophie called in English. We need to talk. We're not here to hurt you. We just want to talk. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a crack, security chains still attached. A woman's face appeared, suspicious, tired, and startlingly similar to Sophie's own. Same skin tone. Same box braids. Same general features that had caused this entire catastrophic mess. Who are you? Sophie Kim asked. I'm Sophie Bennett. The woman who was kidnapped by mistake because I have your name and look enough like you to fool men who only had a description. Sophie kept her voice calm. And this is Lee Ji-hyuk. I know you know that name. Sophie Kim's eyes widened. She tried to slam the door, but Ji-hyuk's foot blocked it. We're not here to hurt you, Ji-hyuk said quietly. We're here to offer you a deal. 5 minutes. Just hear us out. Why should I trust you? Because if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. My men have had eyes on this building for 12 hours. I could have taken you any time. His voice was steady, reasonable. But that's not what we want. We want to end this war before more people die. And you're the only one who can help us do that. Sophie Kim stared at him through the crack in the door. Sophie could see her mind working, calculating odds and options. Finally, she unchained the door and stepped back. 5 minutes. Then I'm gone. They entered a room identical to theirs, but more lived in. Laptop on the bed. Clothes scattered. Empty ramen containers stacked on the desk. Sophie Kim kept her distance, hand hovering near her bag, probably where she kept a weapon. Talk, she commanded. Ji-hyuk got straight to it. You stole cryptocurrency and encrypted files from my organization and the Hwangs. The Hwangs think I have you, which started a war. 3 of my men are dead. 5 hospitalized. Millions in damages. And now they've put 15 million won on your head. Anyone who delivers you gets paid. Not my problem. It became your problem when they mistook Sophie Bennett for you and tried to kill her. Ji-hyuk's hand found Sophie's. She's innocent. Caught in this because she shares your name and looks enough like you to fool people. And I refuse to let her die for your crimes. Sophie Kim's expression flickered, guilt, maybe, or recognition of the chaos she'd caused. I didn't mean for anyone else to get hurt. But they did, Sophie said softly. And more will die unless we end this. Return what you stole. Make peace with the Hwangs. Let everyone move on. The Hwangs will kill me the second I surface. Not if you're under my protection, Ji-hyuk said. Return the money and files. I'll guarantee your safety. Set you up with a new identity, money to start over somewhere far from Korea. You disappear and everyone gets what they want. Why would you do that? Because I'm tired of violence. Tired of wars that serve no purpose except pride. And because he looked at Sophie. Because someone showed me there are better ways to solve problems than just eliminating everyone who becomes inconvenient. Sophie Kim studied them both. You two are together. That's unexpected. Very, Sophie agreed. But that's what happens when you survive being kidnapped by mistake and fall for your captor despite all logic and reason. A small smile crossed Sophie Kim's face. That's actually kind of romantic. In a deeply messed up way. Welcome to my life, Sophie said dryly. Sophie Kim moved to her laptop, fingers flying over keys. The thing is, I can't just return everything. I was hired. Someone paid me to steal from both organizations and deliver the information to them. If I give it back to you, they'll know I betrayed them. Who hired you? Ji-hyuk asked. Sophie Kim hesitated, then turned the laptop around. A photo filled the screen, an older man, Korean, distinguished looking. Sophie didn't recognize him, but Ji-hyuk's entire body went rigid. Hwang Jae-sung, he said quietly. The Hwang family's second in command. He hired you to steal from his own organization. And yours. He wanted to destabilize both families, force a war, then step in as peacemaker when the dust settled. Take control of both organizations in the chaos. Sophie Kim closed the laptop. He's playing everyone. The war? He started it. The bounty on my head? His idea. He's been orchestrating this entire thing. Sophie's mind raced. But if we expose him, if we prove he's behind everything, then both organizations will turn on him instead of each other, Ji-hyuk finished. The war ends because we have a common enemy. Exactly. Sophie Kim stood. I've been documenting everything. Every communication. Every payment. Every instruction he gave me. I have proof that could bring him down. Why haven't you used it? Because I'm one woman with a laptop hiding in a hostel. What am I going to do? Email it to the police. They're probably on his payroll. Post it online? He'd have me killed before it gained traction. She looked at Ji-hyuk. But you? You have power. Resources. The ability to make sure this information reaches the right people. Ji-hyuk pulled out his phone. Send me everything. I'll make sure both families see it. Together, we'll eliminate Huang Jae-sung and end this. And then you disappear like we agreed. New name, new life, clean slate. But you have to testify first. Face both organizations and confirm Huang hired you. Can you do that? Sophie Kim's hands shook, but she nodded. If it means ending this. If it means Sophie Bennett gets to live a normal life without people trying to kill her for my mistakes. Yeah, I can do that. She transferred files to Ji Hyok's phone while Sophie watched, hardly daring to breathe. This was it. The evidence they needed. The key to ending the war and saving everyone. Ji Hyok's phone buzzed with the final file transfer. He checked it, nodded. This is everything we need. So what now? Sophie Kim asked. Now we call a meeting. Both families. Tomorrow night. Neutral territory. Ji Hyok's arm wrapped around Sophie's waist. And we end this war before anyone else dies. As they left the hostel, Sophie felt the weight of the last 2 weeks lifting slightly. They had a plan. They had evidence. They had a chance at actually fixing this impossible situation. We're really doing this, she said as Ji Hyok drove them back toward Seoul. We're really doing this. He brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. Together. Together, she echoed. Then smiled. You know, when I woke up 2 weeks ago in your penthouse, I never imagined I'd end up helping you bring down a corrupt mafia second-in-command and end a war. And when I ordered my men to grab Sophie Kim, I never imagined I'd grab the wrong woman and fall completely in love with her instead. He glanced at her, eyes soft. Best mistake I ever made. Even though it caused a war? Especially because it caused a war. Because it forced me to change. To choose something different. To become the man you make me want to be instead of the monster my father trained me to be. His hand tightened on hers. You saved me, Sophie Bennett. In every way a person can be saved. Tears burned Sophie's eyes. And you gave me a life I never knew I wanted. Dangerous and complicated and absolutely insane. But mine. Ours. Ours, he agreed. And tomorrow, we make sure it stays that way. Wow. Just wow. If this story has had you on the edge of your seat from start to finish, you need to subscribe right now. Drop a comment with your favorite moment from this entire journey. Hit that like button if you're ready to see how Sophie and Ji Hyok end this war once and for all. Epilogue. The meeting took place in a warehouse on neutral ground, territory belonging to neither the Lees nor the Huangs. Both families arrived with armed guards, tension crackling in the air like lightning about to strike. Sophie stood beside Ji Hyok, his hand warm and steady in hers. Across the room, the Huangs lined up, Huang Jae-sung front and center, his expression neutral but his eyes calculating. And behind them, Sophie Kim, flanked by Ji Hyok's most trusted men. Ji Hyok stepped forward. We're here because this war was built on a lie. He presented the evidence methodically, coldly, showing every communication, every payment, every piece of proof that Huang Jae-sung had orchestrated everything. The room went deadly silent as both families processed the betrayal. When Huang Jae-sung tried to run, he didn't make it 3 steps before his own men stopped him. The Huang family head, an elderly man with sharp eyes, looked at Ji Hyok with something like respect. You've done us a service, Lee SSI. This treachery will be handled. And the war ends, Ji Hyok said. Not a question. A statement. The war ends. Sophie watched as Huang Jae-sung was dragged away, still protesting his innocence. Watched as Sophie Kim was escorted to safety, her testimony given and her debt to society paid. Watched as 2 criminal empires chose peace over destruction. Outside, the sun was rising over Seoul. Ji Hyok pulled Sophie close, kissing her softly. It's over, he whispered. It's over, she agreed. So what now? Now we live. Actually live, not just survive. We build something good from all this chaos. We choose each other every day and see where it takes us. Even though we started in the worst possible way? Especially because we started in the worst possible way. We've already survived the impossible. Everything else will be easy. Sophie laughed, kissing him again. Nothing with you will ever be easy. Good. I like a challenge. His eyes sparkled. And you're the biggest challenge I've ever faced. Right back at you, Mafia boss. They stood there as the city woke up around them, 2 people who'd found love in the absolute worst circumstances and somehow made it work anyway. Wrong girl. Right everything else. And absolutely, impossibly, perfectly theirs. The end. If this story kept you hooked from beginning to end, smash that subscribe button for more intense romance stories that'll have you on the edge of your seat. Drop a comment telling me what you thought. Did Sophie and Ji-hyuk's love story work for you? And hit that like button so more people can experience this wild ride from kidnapping to happily ever after. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.